Hi guys, today we're going to be making a vegan chicken pot pie with a buttermilk biscuit crust. The entire recipe is in the description box below, and we are going to separate this recipe into three parts: the crust, the gravy, and the chicken filling. So let's get into the video. Now for the crust, the first thing you're going to want to do is set aside all of the dry ingredients from my buttermilk biscuit recipe, which I will link in the description box below. Once you have those dry ingredients, set those to the side. Now we're going to work on setting aside and prepping for the gravy. Now for the gravy, all you need to do is chop your onions and set those to the side with the other things that you'll need for the gravy, such as your cashew milk, your vegetable broth, and your spices. Once that's set to the side, then we're going to set aside the ingredients for the chicken mix. So we have our celery, our mixed veggies, and our chicken. I also like to use avocado instead of oil or butter in this recipe, so I set that to the side as well once I mash that. So in the pot, you're going to want to add your chicken, your veggies, and then your celery, and you want to pour some vegetable broth on top of everything, just enough to cover it, don't overdo it. And then you're going to want to put this on medium to high heat and let it come to a boil. Once it's boiling, the chicken is going to be soft enough that you can sort of cut into it with the tip of your spoon, and you want to go ahead and break up the chicken into smaller pieces. I'm using Gardein chicken strips here, and break it up into smaller pieces. And we're going to use this vegetable stock, this broth, and use that for the next part of the recipe. So you want to drain out the broth, and then you want to add this to the mashed avocado and the onions, and you want to go ahead and mix that all together and add a little bit more broth to the whole mixture. This is what I do instead of having to use oil, just because it makes the recipe a little lighter. And then once you have all that mixed together, you want to add your flour, all of your spices, and then once you have your spices and your flour mixed in, you want to add your vegetable broth, add more vegetable broth, and then your cashew milk little by little. And you want to stir it and take your time, because this is where the magic happens for that gravy. Once that's nice and smooth, you cover it and you set it to the side. So now you have your two fillings set to the side. It's time to finish that crust. So we're going to fold in the butter into the crust, and then you're looking for a nice breadcrumb-like consistency. Once you have that, then you're going to add in your cashew milk, and that's it. Your crust is ready to be kneaded and formed. So we're going to make everything, form everything together into a nice ball, into a nice soft dough. And then once you have your dough ready, you're going to separate it into two parts. You want one part for your top crust and one part for your bottom crust. So we're going to work on the bottom crust first. So we're going to go ahead and knead it, nothing too heavy-handed or anything. And then once we have it all kneaded, we're going to go ahead and take a rolling pin and roll it all out. And once it's all rolled out, now I was using a rectangular tray because I have a big family and we have a lot of kids eating. So I am using a more rectangular shape, but it's up to you if you use a pie crust. So once I have that all rolled out, I put it on the bottom of that tray, and you want to just push it to the edges and just make sure that it covers the entire bottom surface. That way things aren't falling out, the filling isn't falling out. Once you have that all set, then you can put that to the side and get working on the top crust. For the top crust, you do the same thing. Use the same dough, roll it out, get it nice and shaped that for the form that you want it to be, and then you go ahead and set that to the side. You go back to your stove, you get your chicken mix, you pour that on top of your bottom crust, and then you get your gravy, you pour that on top of the chicken mix, and then you are ready to even everything out with a spoon. And then you can go ahead and put that top crust on. Now again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to look perfect. This is just a quick, super easy way of doing things. That way you can just get this food on the table. So you go ahead and you use your fork, you prick the sides to make sure that the top and the bottom stick together, and that is it. You have officially just made a vegan chicken pot pie. You want to pierce the top with your fork too, in like sort of like an X shape to help some of that air escape. You put it in your oven for 425 degrees for about 20 minutes, and this is how it ends up coming out. Rub a little bit of butter on the top if you want it to get that extra crispy golden look. And enough talking, let's get to tasting this recipe and see how it looks and turned out.
Absolutely. The breading is so flavorful with the filling. It all mixes together.
Here, taste the chicken. That's the Gardein chicken.
Where, this?
Yeah.
Yeah, gotta put some crust with it. This crust is amazing. This is the biscuit recipe?
That's my biscuit recipe, yep.
Yes, yes. And look how big it is too. This is fit for our family because we got all these kids. We know they're gonna want seconds because this is amazing.
That's Thanksgiving?